Something strange is happening with the US economy. The government is spending money it doesn't have, at a rate we haven't seen since the pandemic. Every few months the debt ceiling is raised, new bonds are issued, and trillions more dollars enter the system. You'd think the obvious solution is simple: stop printing money. But there's one problem: America can't. The entire economy has become addicted to money printing, and if the government ever tried to quit, the withdrawal would trigger the largest economic crash since the Great Depression. To understand why, we need to look at how the economy is built today. The US economy, measured by GDP, is about $30 trillion. Out of that, the government alone spends about $7 trillion each year. But here's the catch: it only collects $5.2 trillion in taxes. That means roughly $1.8 trillion is borrowed money that doesn't exist yet. So where does this extra cash come from? It comes from debt. The US government borrows from investors, from foreign nations, and, most importantly, from the Federal Reserve. And that's where things get strange. The Federal Reserve isn't truly federal, it has no reserves, and it's not a bank in the traditional sense. What it can do is create money out of thin air. It lends this newly created money to the US government, which then spends it into the economy. The result? Artificial growth, boosting GDP temporarily, but at the cost of inflation and a weaker dollar. This cycle has repeated for decades. The government borrows, the Fed prints, the economy grows on borrowed time. But here's the scary part: if this printing stopped, GDP would instantly shrink by about 6%, even worse than the 2008 recession, which was only a 4.3% contraction. So Washington keeps printing because the alternative is political suicide. Cutting spending would mean layoffs, collapsing businesses, and mass unemployment. Raising taxes would trigger public outrage and economic slowdown. Either way, pain is unavoidable. To balance the budget, the government must either spend less or earn more. Cutting spending means closing departments, canceling programs, and firing workers. But every dollar the government cuts removes a dollar of spending from GDP. That's why even austerity measures never last long. No administration wants to preside over a deep recession. Meanwhile, raising taxes sounds easy until you realize Americans already face a dizzying list of taxes: income tax, payroll tax, sales tax, property tax, capital gains tax, corporate tax, tariffs, and countless state and local levies. Increasing taxes further would stifle consumption and investment, the very things keeping the economy afloat. Here's the hidden effect of endless money printing: it widens the wealth gap. When new money enters the system, it flows first to government contractors, corporations, and financial institutions, long before it reaches ordinary workers. Inflation quietly erodes the purchasing power of wages and savings. The wealthy, who own assets like stocks and real estate, see their wealth rise. The poor, who depend on cash, see their living costs explode. It's a silent transfer of wealth from the bottom to the top, engineered by the mechanics of the modern monetary system. There's also a bigger risk: the US dollar's role as the world's reserve currency. For decades, countries trusted the dollar because it was backed by stability and global dominance. But as debt balloons past $37 trillion, foreign nations are beginning to hedge, buying gold, stockpiling commodities, and even experimenting with alternative payment systems like brick settlements and blockchain-based ledgers. If confidence in the dollar falls, it won't just mean inflation. It could mean a global realignment of economic power. And that's something no amount of printed money can fix. So, what can everyday people do in a system like this? The short answer: learn to own assets instead of holding cash. Inflation hurts savers but often benefits investors because printed dollars flow into businesses and markets. History shows that long-term wealth belongs to those who hold equity, property, and tangible value. That means investing wisely and strategically in diversified asset classes. Stocks, real estate, commodities like gold, and even emerging technologies can all act as hedges against inflation and currency decay. But diversification is key. The goal isn't to predict the next crash, it's to survive and thrive through all of them. Here's the truth: the government won't stop printing money because the economy would collapse if it did. Debt and inflation are now baked into the American financial system. But while you can't control what Washington does, you can control how you prepare. Learn how money really works. Build assets that grow while the dollar weakens. And remember, the sooner you stop relying on printed money, the sooner you start building real wealth. Because in this new era of endless debt, the only ones who win are those who understand the game. Please like and subscribe to EconGeoFinance Insights. Also, share your thoughts in the comments below.